Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakar Kadash, Barakatham, to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a sit-down lesson of the Emerald. This is a prophecy. This is a sit-down lesson of the prophecy updates as of let's say this is September the 11th, 2025, on this Thursday night. And as we've been seeing, tensions have been heating up, for quite a while between Poland and Russia, because you had, as of yesterday or day before yesterday, last time I checked, you had Russia was using drone strikes against Poland, which they violated their airspace according to Poland. And then they shot down those multiple drone strikes from Russia. So we've been seeing the Russia-Ukraine situation been going on ever since February of 2022 all the way into now. And then you've been having an on and off back and forth tensions been heating up between NATO and Russia as well too. And I just want to add a side note to that. And this is a website called EuroAsiaView.com, published September the 12th, 2025, by RFERL, published by Reed Standish, and it reads: Russia looks to Garch of NATO with zip-pad war games. Here's what to know, according to analysts. It says, from the RFE/RL reports, Russia and Belarus has kicked off a major joint military exercise drills as tensions in the region sparked after a Russian drone entered Polish territory, prompting Warsaw and NATO allies scrambling their defense. The Zapad 2025 drills will begin on September the 12th, which is tomorrow. It will take place in Belarus, because you had recently Belarus is allies with Russia, and then recently announced Russia sent some missiles over there to Belarus to start their military war games of the ongoing tensions they have against NATO. While the Russia-Ukraine situation is intensified, it says Russia will last until September 16th, so it's going to last for 4 days. It says Russia officials said their war games will simulate repelling enemy attacks, and analysts say that the central aim of the exercise is to showcase that Russia's military is still powerful after a 3.5 year of the grinding war. And Ukraine, that is estimating, has cost Moscow more than 1 million of casualties. I think the proposal is for Russia's President Vladimir Putin to try to show that he's still strong, that the war in Ukraine hasn't really affected him. Landrum, a retired lieutenant general in the U.S. Air Force, who is now a senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysts at CEPA, to the RFERL. It says this year's war games also set to practice a decision-making around the use of Russian nuclear weapons and nuclear capability, intermediate-range missiles that Moscow has promised to supply. If I pronounce the name right, Russia hasn't said how many tactical nuclear weapons has it deployed to Belarus, but Lukonisko said in a December that his country has several dozens. It says, I think this is a display for nations and world media as part of the influence campaign, Landrum says. The drill has already drawn concerns from Ukraine and other countries bordering Belarus, such as Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, who will be watching closely. After a zip-pad military exercise in 2021 was used in part covering moving Russian troops enter Belarus, where they then roll out in Ukraine in February 2022. It says a NATO spokesperson told the RFE/RL that the alliance monitors Russia's military activity closely. They call on Russia and Belarus to act in predictable and a transparent manner in line with their international commitments during these ZPAD drills, but the NATO does not see any immediate military threat against any members. It says the Kremlin also consistently demonstrated that the lack of transparency, including with regard to the size and scope of the exercise. The spokesperson told the RFE/RL it, it said it has no history of using military exercise to pursue policies. It says how many troops will be in ZPAD 2025 exercise question mark. Amid the Kremlin ongoing war in Ukraine, this year's ZPAD could be the most limited ever. Belarus's defense officials said earlier this year about 13,000 troops will participate in the exercise close to the country's western border. But in May, the numbers had revised and cut in half, putting it likely to the total of around 7,800 personnel. That announcement also said that the main maneuvers will take place deeper inside Belarus. It says the Belarus's defense minister, Viktor Kremlin, said most of the exercise will happen around the city of Beryslav, about 27 kilometers northeast of Minsk, though some small units will carry out practical tasks to repel a hypothetical enemy in areas close to the borders of Poland and Lithuania. It said Moscow also forecasts send about 2,000 troops to Belarus, while the total exercise will cover Russia, Moscow, Leningrad military districts, and Kaliningrad enclave, an Arctic region in the Baltic and Barents Seas. And it says Russia, however, is also running 3 or 4 separate exercises with the countries from the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO. A military bloc includes Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Tajikistan, which could match the true size of the ZPAD. So this deal ZPAD expected to be far smaller in scale than the estimate 200,000 troops that could take part of the latest iteration of the military exercise 2021. It says, why are these years ZPAD drills significant? It says, while this year drills are set to be smaller than recent years, it says they are mark the return to a strategic level exercise for Russia and Belarus since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This year's exercise will be very likely indicating how Moscow expects a war against NATO to play out. The German Council for Foreign Relations wrote in a recent report. It says, previewing the exercise, while there is no action, danger, or escalation, exercise will provide NATO's with important lessons on Russia's concept of the future war. ZPAD, which means West in Russian, is the latest interactions military exercise that began in the 1970s under the Soviet Union and continues until its collapse in 1991. It was revised in 1999 and later expanded under Putin as a 4-year cycle of military drills that rotated through the Russian and its neighboring geographical regions. It says in the past that the Kremlin has not shielded from the provocations in its military exercise, in the addition to 2021 drills hiding military deployment ahead of Russia's invasions of Ukraine. Western officials had stated that they believed the Zip-Pad exercise 2009 and 2013, including a similar nuclear strike against Warsaw and Stockholm. A spotlight on Belarus and nuclear weapons. In December, Belarusians autocratic leader Alexei and Leskonenko, if I pronounce the name right, and Putin signed a treaty giving security guarantees to Belarus, including the possibility of the use of Russian nuclear weapons to help repel any aggression. Right, just in case they potentially might come under enemy attack from NATO and the Western countries, just in case. As I added a side note to that, the treaty followed Moscow's revival of its nuclear doctrine, which the first time placed Belarus under Russia's nuclear umbrella, amiding the tensions with the West. Kremlin, Belarus defense minister says that the troops will practice planning and the use of Russia's nuclear weapons in the Zip-Pad drills, but the exercise will not involve their physical deployment. It says while the Western military observers will be followed this development closely. The war games also come as Lukanesco recently signaled willingness to mend his relationships with the West, which had been severely strained for years over his brutal crackdown on citizens of his support for Russia's war in Ukraine. Lukanesco is pushing a narrative of de-escalation promises and to influence Putin's actions and making consensus such as releasing political prisoners such as, said, Raihul Benicio, if I pronounce his name right, a Belarus initiative director at the Chatham House and recent analyst is looking at the exercise. It says this year has been a regular release of political prisoners, including 52 of its various nationalities of the eve of the drills, as well as a public push for rapprochement with the West in August. Olesko spoke by a phone with the U.S. President Donald Trump, who called him a highly respected president in a social media post. If the exercise proceeded in a dual and transparent manner, that will likely pave the way for the future dialogue. And Stamicia says, read stands of the RFEA, China's global after correspondent based in Pergol, and the author of the Chinese and Eurasia briefing. He focused on Chinese foreign policies in Eastern Europe and Central Asia as a reported essentially about China's Belt and Road initiatives, Beijing's internment camps in Beijing prior to the joining. Oh, that's something else. Right, so as it says again, the military war games was going to last 4 days between Belarus and Russia. They're going to do military exercise drills, and I believe NATO said they're going to watch closely on the situation with these military exercise drills, which they don't look at as an imminent threat. They're going to be monitoring and watch closely while you have the Russia-Ukraine situation is going on, and then the tensions have been heating up on and off before, between throughout the years recently between NATO versus Russia. So we get into that Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, in verse 4. It says, "Now will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and will bring thee forth in all thy army, horse and horsemen, all of them clothed for all sorts of armor, even a great company of shields." Right. So, despite the fact they're trying to push forth potentially to efforts to de-escalate the tension between the both sides, but Russia's still going to be in that warlike mindset because Heavenly Father is going to continue to push forth that warlike mindset of these Russians. While you have the alliance between Belarus and Russia is increasing, economical alliance and military alliance of the on and all back and forth. Tensions be heating up between, NATO and Russia. So it's only going to continue to increase as NATO been monitoring the situation with this military exercise drills, which is going to come underway September the 12th all the way to the 16th. Because they said the military size was potentially going to be lower because they expected it was like 20,000, but it went down to like 7,000 or 8,000. So they definitely, because NATO and the Western countries definitely going to monitor that military exercise drills. But that's still, Russia is still going to be in that warlike mindset. I'm going to read that again. Ezekiel 38 verse 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. I will bring thee forth from all thy army, horse and horsemen, all of them clothed for swords of armor, even a great company of buckled shields, all of them having swords. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, because you're going to have more increasing military exercise drills, more nuclear training, more military spending, and more nuclear escalation tensions are going to heat up between these nations. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, these are wars and rumors of wars. So the ongoing tensions are heating up between Russia and Ukraine, which Russia invaded Ukraine, as they look at that as a military operation ever since February of 2022 all the way to now. And then you got this military exercise drills coming up starting tomorrow between Belarus and Russia. That's going to last for the next 4 days of September 12th from September 16th. And NATO, they monitoring the situation with the military exercise drills. So, the tension has been on and off between Russia and NATO, which is only going to continue to increase. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? Russia versus Ukraine, Russia versus EU and NATO together, which is the tension been on and off, as I mentioned once before. And you can put that in the category of wars and rumors of wars, which makes perfectly sense. And that's what Yahushua spoke about, of modern day wars and rumors of wars between the nations, which is only going to continue to increase on a daily basis. It says Matthew 24 and verse 6, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. It says, see that you be not in trouble for all these things, which first come to pass, but it's not yet. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, right? Russia versus Ukraine, Edomite nations. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. So with that, hopefully this sit down, this was edifying of the prophecy updates of the tensions are only going to escalate between Russia and Ukraine and EU and NATO versus Belarus and Russia. So those tensions, even though it's been on and on back and forth, as this is a news article once again from the EuroAsiaReview.com as of September 12th, 2025. As it says again, Russia looks to engage NATO with zip-pad war games. Yep, so with that, hopefully this sit down, this was edifying of the prophecy updates as of September the 11th, 2025 on Thursday night, as I mentioned once before. So with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Bakar Kadash, Barakatham, to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim Wa'akwaf. Until next time, I say Shalom.